With us now, let's bring in Democratic member of the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Senator, when you have the Chief of Staff of the President of the United States admitting the quiet part out loud that all of these drug boat attacks, and from what many people have seen the video say, war crimes being committed, are not being committed because they're afraid those drugs are coming to American streets, which are what a lot of people are lying about saying it's about, when, again, that cocaine's going mainly to Europe and the fentanyl's coming mainly from China. But this is about regime change. They admitted the quiet part out loud.
Joe, they did, and I'm really glad you went into that, because they've been preaching this lie that these attacks, which in my view are illegal because they haven't been authorized by Congress. And in fact, Congress has yet to be willing to even hold a single public hearing 100 days into this war in either house about this. Everything they tell us in classified, so we can't discuss it with the American public, which is outrageous. But yeah, Susie Wiles says it's about regime change, and Donald Trump says it's about seizing oil. They issued a national security strategy about 2 weeks ago today, saying the policy toward the Americas now is a new version of the Monroe Doctrine. It is going back more than 100 years, and that doctrine was not about partnership with nations in the Americas. It was about dominance. It didn't work out well throughout American history. It certainly didn't work out well for the nations in the Americas, and it's a horrible thing to hearken back to. That's why we need to have public hearings, so that the American public can see the hollowness of this effort. Virginians don't want another war. They definitely don't want another war in the Americas or against Venezuela, and I don't think Americans do either.
Hey, Senator, it's Walter Isaacson. You watched,
hey, Walter,
because you're on Armed Services, that video of the September 2nd attack where they're clinging onto the boat, the survivors, and you saw what happened. They won't release it. We can't see what happened. Tell me what you saw and how it impacted you.
Well, Walter, first, they ought to release it to the American public because, as you know, Secretary Hegseth released part of the video the day after the attack, turned it into a TV commercial, et cetera, essentially put it out on social media to beat his chest about it. And then we only find out 3 months later that he didn't tell us about the killing of these survivors. Some of what I know is classified, but let me tell you this. I couldn't watch that video and say, okay, America says that's okay, and then think about John McCain shot down in North Vietnam and say, but it would have been wrong for the North Vietnamese to kill him rather than capture them. If the U.S. says this is okay, why wouldn't that have been okay? I can't watch that video and say, well, the U.S. says this okay, without thinking about U.S. sailors in the Red Sea right now. If one of their ships gets hit by a Houthi missile or drone, and we've got some sailors clinging to shipwrecked flotsam, why would it be wrong for the Houthis to strafe them if we say this is okay? What the U.S. did in this instance, in my view, was dramatically lower the standard for the way people should be treated who are shipwrecked combatants, in violation of both U.S. law and international law. The U.S. should be lifting the standard, not pushing the standard down to the basement.
Senator, good morning. Let's talk health care now. We've a major topic this morning. You know, we did see the discharge petition come out of the House yesterday, though the House is suddenly abruptly going home later today. I should note, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez has said she believes that's because more Epstein files are coming out tomorrow, and lawmakers don't want to have to be around to take questions on them. Weigh in on that if you'd like, but just the state of the ACA and these subsidies and the rising costs that are going to come after the first of the year. Here it is, Congress sort of taking the ball and going home as opposed to addressing these problems.
It is very strange. First, I'm really happy that the House is moving forward with this discharge petition. And I actually think they're going home not so much because of the Epstein files. I think they're going home because Johnson does not want to take up that discharge petition. He wants to delay it. Now, why you would delay it until after people have to start paying these escalated premiums, it would seem like you'd be trying to, deliver an ibuprofen to reduce the pain rather than increase the pain. But the good news is the House will act on this early next year. I think they will send a bill to the Senate. And finally, that will make Senate Republicans take seriously the proposal that Democrats have had on the table since the 18th of September, which is to do a straightforward extension of these tax credits. Just to remind people of the magnitude, when the Republicans did the reconciliation bill in June, the tax breaks to the wealthiest 1% of Americans that they gave cost $1 trillion over 10 years. $1 trillion over 10 years. If they had just extended the ACA credits as is, it would have been $350 billion for 10 years. They were willing to do $1 trillion to the top 1%, and they wouldn't do a third of it for the 25 million who need these tax credits. Now is our chance to get it right. And with a few votes that we've already gotten on the Republican side in the Senate, and with the House action likely in early January, I hope that will put some pressure and some momentum behind an effort to fix this.
Democratic member of the Armed Services and Foreign Relations Committees, Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Senator, thank you as always.
Happy holidays, guys.